Hey everybody, Josh the RV Nerd here with Bish's RV. I'm all bundled up today because it's about 40 degrees and raining right now. It always seems like the weather takes a turn when I record these. Although 2 days ago it was 70 degrees, and I think tomorrow aliens coming in at 10 miles an hour from the northeast. But you didn't tune into this for a weather report. You tuned into this because you're wondering what in the wide world of sports is happening in the RV industry. Well, some interesting things. Your favorite refrigerator might be vanishing from the RV industry very quickly. There's some other interesting things happen. I'm going to give you some updates on like pricing trends, shipment rates and things, kind of give you a feel of the pulse of the RV industry, but also an update on things like interest rates, which I haven't talked about in a while, looking at gas prices, and a bunch of other little odds and ends. Anything I was able to scrounge up here from my little sleepy Southern Michigan corner office that we have in this place. Corner office makes it sound like it's luxurious. It's not. Let's get started. So first of all, talking about refrigerators. There's been a big shift in refrigerators for a long time. For the vast majority of the history of the RV industry, a gas electric two-way fridge is what was out there. That's why it is known as the RV refrigerator. And then residential refrigerators kind of started creeping into some bigger things, and then more recently 12-volt compressor fridges have really become a very dominant growing force out there, and that trend is not changing. If you remember back, it was November or December, I kind of talked about how Norcold had ended its North American production of RV gas electric refrigerators. That's kind of creating a thing where you're probably very quickly going to see gas electric refrigerators almost vanish from the RV industry, potentially in the very near future. So before Norcold shut that plant down, what they basically did is they built about a year's supply so that they could keep feeding things to an existing RV manufacturing base who were buying these things. They still have business that they do in Europe, so from here, any production they have will be done overseas and then shipped in. The thing is, that is going to increase the cost. Well, Dometic is the other producer of gas electric refrigerators. There's really only two major producers of gas electric fridges to the RV industry. And Dometic suddenly went,
Oh boy, if we're the only ones in town that can do it at a reasonable price, let's jack up the price and make some money.
and that is not a, I realize the way that I said that just now sounds like I'm really, like, making them sound terrible. That's just business. That's just how business goes. But it's no secret, in the last especially 2 years, the prices of RVs have gone up
Considerably.
Let's just call a spade and a duck, and hopefully you can call me Josh, but I'll settle for nerd. RV manufacturers are trying to find ways to keep the cost of things under control best they can. We're going to talk more about some other ways that that's happening later in this video, but they don't want to start tacking on extra hundreds of dollars for the exact same refrigerator that people have seen, especially when, in some cases, the big gas electric refrigerators are literally not going to be available from anybody anymore. So, like, Dometic will still be making 3, I think 6 and 8 cubic foot varieties, but that's about it. Those big, like, double door, big two-way gas electric fridges are going to essentially vanish from the industry, and a lot of the smaller stuff is going to be 12 volt, period, with like no real change. But what does that mean for consumers? Well, it's going to depend a little bit on what kind of RV you've been looking at and what kind of camping you do. Where this, I think, is going to specifically have a big impact is on the more off-grid and boondock kind of focused crowd, which has grown considerably the last couple years, when in the last 2 years, like, 15.5 million first-time RVers entered the marketplace on top of everybody else that was already here. That has pushed a lot of people to getting away from congested parks and getting off the grid more. Even companies like Northwood RV, who have been the most reserved and traditional and almost resistant to change for the longest time, are going to be adopting new 12-volt fridges. But along with that, I think you're going to see a dramatic increase in the amount and quality of factory solar solutions and factory battery solutions. So like I mentioned, Northwood. Right now, by default, they have like a 45-watt little mini battery maintainer solar package. That is going to change to like a 400-watt standard solar package to compensate for that fridge for their audience in the Pacific Northwest that is very off-grid boondock camp focused. more and more manufacturers are going to have to start making these kind of changes. Now, that also means, thing is, we talk about solar all the time, but it is worthless to talk about solar without also talking about batteries. So you're going to see more companies do partnerships or acquisitions of battery companies with or of. Anyway, like Keystone and Airstream have forged deeper alliances with Dragonfly Energy to provide some awesome factory lithium battery solutions. And recently here, Winnebago actually just acquired Lithionics, a company that they've been using for lithium batteries, and basically just brought them in-house into the fold to better control the development and cost vectors that they're going to have to apply to their RVs for the consumer public. So I got a feeling this is going to be a pretty hot button topic, and I want to put this out there first. What do you think about whether we like it or not, gas electric two-way fridges are going to nearly disappear from the RV industry over the next year and a half, and in a couple years, they may be gone entirely. I'd be kind of curious to know what you think about that, and if you're open to the idea of expanded solar and or other solutions. Leave me some comments. And it's actually kind of interesting how Google seems to really be recognizing the growth of the outdoor industry. They've recently done an update on Google Maps where if you are a fan of our country's national parks, like I tend to use Apple Maps a little bit more, just as iPhone user, it's just kind of the default. But if you're more of a national parks person, you're going to want to get Google Maps on your phone because they have recently basically unveiled an update where it has dramatically improved your ability to navigate various trails within the parks. So instead of just putting a marker pin on a map and you got to sort of figure out how to get there, almost like old Boy Scout style, almost the same way that it would plan a route for you if you're driving from town A to town B, it will literally show you the established hiking routes, and even go so far as to recommend this trail is good for hiking, biking, and walking, or this one's not good for biking, or something like that. So if you are that national park enthusiast, you like to go out on the trails, get you some Google Maps. I don't think you'd be disappointed. Now, shifting dramatically from off the grid to the grid itself, Walmart has really has announced that they're really going to start diving into the business of electric vehicle chargers. And it kind of struck me as a little bit odd at first, but then I started thinking about it. Walmart has Walmart gas stations and stuff like that. So this kind of made sense to me, and that parallel actually helped me through a couple things here. So currently, I think at 1,300 of their stores, they have some level of charging stations, but they've announced that through the year, very quickly, they plan to add at least 4 chargers, basically, to almost all of their 4,700 Walmart and I think 600 Sam's Club stores. And some may have multiple stations. Now, I've seen some people yeah, but these places keep doing it because they're charging money, they're not doing it free. Like I said, like a gas station. Walmart doesn't have gas stations where you go and fill up. If you're going to be pulling juice and that requires a cost, well, yeah, there's a cost associated with that. They have said, of course, that the cost of this will be in line with their everyday low pricing schema, but it's interesting because they're not the only ones kind of doing this here, like Costco, Walgreens, places where you wouldn't associate with vehicle fueling, in a sense, are getting into vehicle charging. And the thing is, none of this is really related to RVing yet, but there's a big discussion out there as electric vehicles are growing, and in some cases growing by mandate. What will happen to the RV industry? Are we going to shift to electric towing vehicles? And one of the things is, what about infrastructure? Where do we get all these charging stations? Well, again, there's some things that are happening there now. Not all of the questions have been addressed, like charging time, vehicle distance, things like that. Can the grid physically support all these charging things? There's a lot of things that aren't solved yet. But Ram is working on it. Recently unveiled, Ram has debuted a prototype of what they're calling a 2025 series vehicle, the Ram 1500 REV, which I assume stands for like Ram Electric Vehicle, something like that. It will be Ram's first fully battery-powered offering. And the thing is, what they're trying to do is address some of the major concerns and potential roadblocks that could exist in the conversation of towing with an electric vehicle or just owning an electric vehicle in general. Things like they're going to have two battery capacities on these. One will be rated for about 350 miles, which is more than what you see out of a lot of electric vehicles now, but the other is supposedly rated for up to 500 miles, which, as far as I know, is pretty currently unheard of. It's also supposed to be able to charge 110 miles worth in about 10 minutes. There's a bunch of other things. Like, again, not all of the roadblocks and not all the pieces of the puzzle are necessarily solved yet. Like, we're still working on the equation. But compared to when we first started talking about this only a couple months ago versus the kind of information and updates that we have now, it's really interesting seeing what has changed, evolved, and been announced. I think we still have a long way to go, but I don't know that I am yet convinced that electric vehicle towing for an RV is really going to be there, because even this Ram with 500 miles, by the time you throw a trailer behind it, you're probably going to cut that down to, we'll say, about 40%. So 40% of that 500 miles, 125 miles, something like that, you might be able to get out of this. And then you're going to be there for, another, 30, 40 minutes charging it back up, something like that. So that's, we're not totally there yet. We're seeing improvements, but maybe it's New Kids on the Block style where they're going to do it step by step. Ooh, baby. But shifting gears back to getting off grid and away from people, the use of public lands for things like camping as part of our conservation acts effectively may be in some pretty serious jeopardy right now. So there was recently a ruling put out by the U.S. Department of Interior that would I don't know the exact verbiage, but basically put conservation on a level playing field with other uses such as mitigation and restoration. Sounds pretty harmless. But if you dove into it a little bit further, this is kind of the same thing that was attempted back in 2016 and was shot down badly, where basically what it could mean is our public lands could be repurposed for things like mining, logging, etc. And these facilities may be locked down for more than just a temporary refreshment period. They might be locked down for like 10 years or more, So it could actually be putting additional pressure on already congested campgrounds that are already forcing people to get off grid and away from other people. And all of this kind of sucks, and I really don't like that, but I hope you appreciate how whether something is good for business or bad for business, we don't pull the punches, we put it out there, because before you go spending your lots and lots of hard-earned money, it's kind of nice to know what the real-world expectation of this thing might be, because the last thing I want you to have happen is you go finding an RV, then figure out you can't go anywhere that you actually want to go with it, and then you just decide, I guess, well, we can't use it, we can't keep it, etc. Hopefully, with some of this information, these updates, I would love for you to be able to enter the RV market, but if that means that it's not the right thing for you, we'd rather pull the Band-Aid off and let you know now before you go spending your family's lots and lots of money. Hope you appreciate the tips and the insight. Got some more of that coming here later in the video. Now, there's a thing happening I'm kind of calling RV makers versus aged inventory, where different manufacturers have been approaching this differently. I've talked about it a little bit. Some manufacturers are kind of playing ball to help make some inventory go away, and some are basically saying, dealer, you bought it. It's your problem to get rid of it now. And I guess that worked fine for a while, but as we are approaching quickly another tick over and update on the model year, there is still a lot of last year's trailers around. And I don't mean 2023s, I mean 2022s. This is normally the time of year where you would start to see the current model year, aka 23s, start to get marked down in anticipation of the updated model years and updated products coming out. And before you go asking, I don't have major updates for you on that. I will, of course, get you that stuff when I can. If you'd like to stay in tune on that, if you're new with us, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I will do my best. But back to the topic. with a bunch of 2022s in stock. Even though the 2022 stuff that's been in stock really fueled the first quarter show season, which was by really all accounts a better show season than what anyone really expected this year. The manufacturers are realizing that still with a bunch of 2022s on the ground, it is everyone's problem. It is not just dealers' problems. Because if dealers can't get rid of their 22s, then they're not going to order especially 23s, let alone potentially 24s, and then the manufacturers aren't building, and then everything falls apart. Like, you get the idea. So some manufacturers recognize this early. Like Alliance had this $2,022 rebate package way back when. Recently here, Thor has really been doing some serious work to help dealers off inventory. And I actually feel, if you remember what I reported on last month, Thor had abnormally low first quarter profits. I think it's because they were reinvesting this money back into their dealerships, back into their partnerships to help them get off of some of their existing inventory. And it is getting to that point where you're seeing more manufacturers really start to get very aggressive on some of the stuff. Like I recently saw where on select motorhomes and whatnot, Thor had offered anywhere from $7,500 up to $10,000 of rebate money off of in stock like 2023 motorhomes, just like crazy level rebates. I started in 2009, and I've talked to the people that have been around this for much, much longer than me, and no one's ever heard of anything like that ever happening. That was something that traditionally really only seemed to happen in the automotive industry, but we didn't tend to see it happen here. So what I'm kind of predicting happening is as more of these incentives roll out and become available, you'll start to see really good deals on things, not just on a 2022 model that happens to still be in stock, but some fresh 2023 inventory. So where we saw the 2022s really fuel show season, you're going to see some of those on crazy stupid blowout as dealers are just like literally trying to buy your business, just begging you, please get this off my lot. The 2023s that are in stock, which there's a good slug of that now, those are probably going to fuel a lot of this summer selling season, as basically campgrounds are open and the camping season is pretty much effectively here. And you may actually notice, business hasn't been terrible. Business isn't like it was last year, but notice how you're seeing some open dirt in the backgrounds of my shots here. That's something that you hadn't seen for several months here in these video updates. So if you are looking for something for this summer, keep an eye out. You will have an ability. If there's an in-stock 2022, it's going to be a pretty good chance that thing is going to be just a stupid screaming deal. And the thing to remember, that still has full warranty. A lot of people don't think about that. They think the warranty just goes with the model year. Warranties on RVs don't actually begin until the RV is purchased by you and registered. So even if it's a 2022 and you bought it today, your warranty starts today. So handy little factor to keep in mind there for you. A little pro tip from Uncle Josh for shopping this summer. Whether it's from us or anybody, doesn't matter who it's from. That's just information that might benefit you out there. And as the number of people camping has increased, the ability for different groups to be able to cater to kind of more specific subsets or niches within the RV marketplace and lifestyle as a whole has grown. And I've talked before how I think there are a lot of specifically older people and younger people on the opposite ends of the spectrum that are both looking toward RVing for the same sad reason as an alternative to housing. There's a lot of people I think that have been disenfranchised or priced out of traditional housing that have looked to RVs as a cheaper alternative, even on a short-term basis until they can figure something out. As a result, there's been enough of that, sadly, again, that there are some groups who realize that there's an opportunity to cater to this new clientele. And recently here, like this isn't the only example, but recently here, there's a development group up in the Pacific Northwest that is opening a total of, between two different parks, a total of 270 sites specifically geared and catering to the long-term camper, the seasonal camper, the potentially full-time camper, the park site type camper, the people who are in it for more than just the casual weekend warrior fun and memories kind of play. It is going to be very interesting to see if more of that continues to develop. I've heard it's interesting how different parks have shifted here. I've heard some parks have been shifting more toward that kind of seasonal business, and there have been some parks I've heard even locally here that are almost telling people, okay, we're moving away from seasonal sites and everything's going to be like a weekly, nightly rate. So different groups are going different directions with it, each kind of picking which client they want to zero in on. And I'd be kind of curious. Let me know like where your neck of the woods is, and if you've seen any kind of major shifts or developments in your local campgrounds that way, either something new or a major change in something that's been there for a while. I'm wondering if there's any kind of consistent trend we can pick up. Now, moving over into kind of the lifeblood and flow of the new RV market, what are the rates of shipments looking like right now? And warning, prepare for some charts and graphs, and if you need more time to look at and review these, pause your video, and if you're on a mobile device where the screen goes dark when you do that, if you tap the screen again, not on the play button, usually that black overlay will go away and you can actually see what you're looking at right here. So versus last year, the number of shipments new for manufacturers out into the industry are down considerably, over 50% in some cases in certain market segments. The towable RVs are down the most, followed by motorized. But interestingly, the quote park model or like destination camper segment is up. Proportionately speaking, massively, like 42% increase. That segment of the market, the number of shipments going out continues to increase and not decrease. I think there's a couple reasons for that. I think one of the major signs is, again, the disenfranchised homeowners who are looking for an alternative, and a destination trailer is the most similar thing to a home. The other thing is, for a couple years, those trailers almost weren't built at all, and in some cases were not built at all. There's, again, kind of a tale of two cities here, though. If you look at the number of shipments in, like, the tan bar versus the blue bar, yeah, it's obvious. There's a ton less RVs being shipped out right now, and it's an easy thing to look at that and say, that's the whole story. Again, kind of interpreting that data a little bit differently, if you think back to what was happening last year, there was still like no inventory in stock. So dealers needed manufacturers to just go bananas and ship everything to get something on the shelf to sell, basically. The other thing is, coming into this year, dealerships had a bunch of inventory in stock. So the first quarter of this year, you shouldn't expect to see the same number of shipments. And I don't know that we'll see the same number of shipments this year versus last in almost any month. But a lot of manufacturers were, some were totally shut down even halfway through February. They took like almost 2.5 months off of production. You can see by the blue bars that more and more things are being produced, and I think we are working up toward a level of historical normalization that we just haven't seen for a while. And if you're newer to the RV market, you don't realize what historical normalization looked like. The problem is we got a little bit ahead of ourselves as the entire RV marketplace in general, and we robbed Peter to pay Paul, and now we're paying the piper. But what about the used RV market? Well, get ready for more charts and graphs. Kind of charts and graphs, arts and crafts. There's got to be something to that. I'll figure that out on my own time. But anyway, best thing I can say here is what we're about to look at are wholesale values, meaning like auction block used RV sales, things that have been actually cataloged at national auctions. Goofy results this month. First of all, taking a look at the towable market, the values are following a multi-month trend of increasing. And what's happening there, I think, is auction volumes are about the same, but with the season opening up, dealers are looking more and more and more, trying to find that used RV, that lower price point to expand their offerings to reach the largest number of people possible. And as a result, you've got a bunch of dealers fighting over the same older used inventory, and a lot of that stuff is picked off because the average age of travel trailers coming across those wholesale events was only about 5 years old. That's the youngest I've ever seen those used RV wholesale figures ever represent. So as we're looking at a newer and newer RV, the price point's creeping up and up and up. The average model year coming across the auction blocks is only about a 2018. Not terribly old, to the tune of some lenders will still offer same as new financing on something that is within 5 years of the current model year, 2018 and above. So that might be another interesting shopping thing for you. If you are trying to really get the best monthly budget payment thing possible for you, a little pro tip here, find something that's about 4 or just barely 5 model years old versus the current model year. And there are some lenders that, with good approved credit, may offer you same as new RV financing rates on something that's gone through several years of a depreciation cycle, so you're getting the same RV for less dollars. Now, obviously, it just depends on how much it's been used. I'm not saying this is the only way to do it. I'm just saying it's a thing to maybe check there. But, sorry. Now, over to the concept of motorized RVs. I'm looking at motorhomes that you're not seeing, which is why I'm pointing in this direction. Anyway, values on motorhomes went the opposite direction of towables. They've actually followed a multi-month trend of creeping down a little bit, down about 7% from the year previously. Average age of the used motorhome at these wholesale events was a 2011, which sounds about normal, about right from what I've seen on these before. There were more motorhomes available at these auction events, though, than what we had seen. So it's kind of funny how just different market. It seems like when the motorhomes are hot, the towables are not, and vice versa, and we're just going through, a different cycle. Now, something else that may factor into these little statistics and charts is we're coming into the peak summer season when the majority of RV business transactions take place. It would not surprise me if we see auction volumes increase in the near future as more and more dealers get more and more trades. Some dealers will sit there, kind of like if we take a unit on trade, typically we're going to sell it. But not every place does that. Some places, they really only focus on selling new RVs, and they run the used stuff across the auction block, and they take a trade just to help the new RV get sold. Every place is a little different, but that's where a lot of this inventory is coming from. Now, of course, some of the inventory comes from things like, bank repos and whatnot, but that is not even close to the biggest thing fueling the wholesale used RV auction market currently. How that turns out in the future? I don't know. My crystal ball don't go that far. And here's the motorhomes that I should have probably had in the background of my footage when we're talking about used motorhome values, although we would have been looking at charts anyway, so you wouldn't have seen them. And I've got a rock in my shoe. I don't edit my videos, as you can tell. Squirrel! Moving on. Kind of like your favorite refrigerator might be vanishing from the business, potentially your favorite neighborhood RV dealer may also be vanishing from the business, or at least showing up under a different name. There was a huge wave of dealership consolidation, unlike anything I've ever seen in my time in this business, that happened through last year, early into this year, and it kind of simmered down now for a little bit. And then all of a sudden this last month, boy, there were so many acquisitions announced, some of which were like multi-store groups of their own becoming acquired by bigger multi-store groups out there. And I don't see that trend stopping anytime soon. I think what's fueling the surge of it all of a sudden here is that as age of inventory has become an issue for more places, some dealerships just don't have the ability to sit there on big chunks of old inventory as interest rates climb up, because that costs dealerships more and more money. Something not everybody realizes is, like, all the RVs sitting here, we don't just like flat cash own them necessarily. Dealerships have effectively a giant running loan where they can add an RV to it, subtract an RV to it as they go. And as long as the RVs come and go quickly, that's not a problem. But when the RV stays long term, we have to start making interest payments on these things, curtailments. And some smaller dealers had way too much inventory coming into the year with rising interest rates, and it's just put way too much of a crunch on them. And they haven't been able to get off that inventory. They haven't been able to keep money flowing and liquid. And some places are looking for a way out and looking to some of the bigger groups out there. Has been a way out for some folks. I think that's been a big reasoning for the consolidation practice that we're seeing currently. Basically, in short, dealerships are cheaper to buy now than they were last year. So you're seeing a big chunk of it suddenly start to spike up. There's benefits to it. There's drawbacks to it. Like, a lot of dealership groups, if you don't buy from them, they won't work on your RV. It doesn't matter what brand it is. Well, when they have more doorsteps, theoretically, it gives you more places to stop, assuming They will actually be able to get you in on their service schedule, which is an entirely different story for an entirely different day. But, you know, I'm part of Bish's RV now, and we have, I think, a very modest, currently like 22 stores. We bloomed up a little bit, and then we kind of slowed down. We were never looking to be the largest volume, you know, we have every single dealership in every single state kind of place. Like, it's just not what we're going to do. And we grew up real quick. We bloomed up a little bit, realized we had to improve our infrastructure. We kind of pulled back the reins. We slowed down. We're working on improving internally so we can assist you better externally. And we'll probably continue to slowly expand the way that we have. Like, most recently, we just grew another Michigan store. We just sprouted up in Traverse City, Michigan, so that now gives us 4 Michigan stores. We call it one store with 4 doors. I don't know if anybody else calls it that. I call it that. It doesn't matter anyway. My point is, you're going to probably see that consolidation trend continue. I think it'll slow down as we get into kind of real summertime, and then coming into this fall, I think that there might be some people who said, all right, I got one good summer out of this thing. I sold my inventory. I'm cashing in my chips. I'm going to hand the reins over to somebody else. I think this fall you're going to see another big wave of consolidations coming down the pipeline. And speaking of interest rates, where are rates going? Like, if you're a prospective customer, what are you kind of looking at right now? Now, what I'm about to share for you are rough figures, not hard, this is what you can guarantee and expect, but rough figures if you're getting into the new RV market and you're looking at a longer term RV loan, meaning like 10, 12, 15 years. In that sort of range, if you came in and you said, I don't want you to look at my credit or anything, but, you know, roughly what would my interest rate be on one of these things? We are, from the hip, kind of estimating around 8%. And if you're keeping track from where we were in years past, the rates have crept up, just like we said they were going to. We knew that was going to happen this year, and it looks like that trend will probably still continue. Now, I mentioned we're giving you an 8% generalized estimate rate. Better rates are available. Like, if you have really good qualifications, if you have a good chunk of money down, you may qualify for a better interest rate. There's a lot of factors there. But if you just ask me a blind, what's the rough going interest rate, that's kind of where it is right now. And that's one of those things some people might go, 8%, ain't no way I'm going to get in the market for 8%. Well, I get that. I respect that. That's why I put this out there. And I know that as I say this, there's going to be some people who probably are not going to buy an RV now. That's okay. I try to be real about this. I want to give you good, real information, again, to help you plan what you might be doing this summer or the next couple years with your family. That's one of the things that I like about working here. They really not just allow me, but encourage me to put that information out there to help make you a better, more educated consumer. I think that's very cool. Now, again, I do expect interest rates to keep kind of creeping up as there are some certain core economic factors that are kind of looked at there. Who knows? They could come down. I don't predict that happening anytime very soon here, though. So, plan accordingly. Why not talk about fuel prices? We've been kind of touching on that because I don't think you can really talk about traveling with an RV without talking about fuel prices. Not rightly so anyway. It all kind of goes together, and I like to give you that more complete look at things. Currently, at the time that I'm recording this, was just a little bit before the turn of the month. The average price for a gallon of regular unleaded gasoline in our country is $3.48. If you wind the clock back with Mr. Peabody's Wayback Machine, you'll remember that's about 17 cents more than it was last month. And that sucks. But it's also 75 cents less than it was last year at this time of year. Man, I'll take it. I mean, I'd rather it be 17 cents less than last month than 17 cents more, but that's what's going on. So what's happening here is oil prices have actually dipped down a little bit, but as more and more of us are basically coming out of hibernation effectively, the demand for fuel has gone up, which has basically facilitated and encouraged a little bit of an increase in costs. I wish that wasn't the case, but again, that's the facts, Jack, and I'm just going to do my best to shoot you straight because I ain't real good at shooting curved. And that's what I got for you in this here go-round, ladies and gentlemen. If you've appreciated this information, if you like how we continue to bring this to you, if you're new with us, please hit that subscribe button. Join with us on the next one here. And if you're a returning member of the RV Nerd Herd, leave me a little Nerd Herd hashtag or something in the comments. Or at least, no matter what, folks, if you can click the like button on this video, it costs you nothing, and it does help this video get spread around and share this information with more people. Similarly, please feel free. You know, copy the link on this, share this into your favorite Facebook camping group or whatever you prefer to use, and I'd love it if we could help spread the message, and because a lot of this is just education. Whether you're buying from us or not, this is information that I think just applies that might be very good for you. And I won't claim to be an authority, I won't claim to have it all, know it all figured out, but I've been in it for a minute, I've got a couple good ideas, and I think maybe it can help some folks at least kind of plan which direction they might be going here. So until next time, take care, stay safe, have fun, and best wishes from Bishes, everyone.